Hi friends, it's time for us to talk about timelines. So this story was put in your packets for you to take home. So I'm just going to go ahead and teach you right off the packet and read it with you. You're going to try your best to talk about the questions that are in the packet or in the story. Talk about them with your family and then also trying to write a really good 1 or 2 sentences about what you read. This is about using timelines. Timelines are really fun. You usually see timelines in history when we're talking about things of the past. And timelines are important so that you know when something happened and how long it took. Remember, we already talked about why it's important to learn about our past. But you can use timelines for anything. Right now would be a really good time to do some timelines and kind of practice making timelines because we have some time on our hands right now that we're using for different purposes than we normally do. In this story, they're going to be talking a lot about school timelines because that's something that you can relate to because you haven't had that much history yet. But we usually use them in history. So let's go ahead and read. Using Timelines by Margaret McNamara. And here you can see this timeline is actually facing up and down, like how this girl is. And it shows here that you can see there's equal spaces. That's important on a timeline. So it's kind of showing you the equal times. Now, if there was a time that was shorter in between, they would make that smaller. But because these are days of the week, each day of the week has the same amount of time in it, 24 hours in a day. So they made them the same length. So here we have Monday, and Monday they go to gym class. Tuesday they had a field trip. Wednesday they had computer lab. Thursday, a spelling test, and Friday, they had a firefighter at their school. So that's a timeline of this week. All right, let's look here. Using Timelines by Margaret McNamara. And here's our table of contents. So we know this is probably going to be informational, right? Nonfiction. And words to think about. Introduction. We have a chapter 1, a timeline of a week at school. Chapter 2, a timeline of the week of the school year. Chapter 3, a timeline of the United States. That would be a little bit of a longer timeline, wouldn't it? Chapter 4, a timeline of famous buildings. That's interesting. The life of a building. Conclusion. That means, of course, the ending of the story. And then, of course, it has a glossary and an index. And we know that glossaries are dictionaries just for this book that'll talk about words from this book. And an index is where we can find information. Like if I wanted to look up famous buildings, I could look in the index. It would tell me what pages to find famous buildings. All right, pictures to think about. Alarm clocks, ooh, and calendars. Yes, timelines really talk about time. And we have some pictures here. Now these ones are painted, which tells me they were from a long ago before we had actual pictures. And then we have here one man on the moon. And then maybe one at school. All right, let's see what we're going to learn. It says words to think about. An event. What is an event? This event happened long ago. So an event is something that happened. And we put that on a timeline. Illustrate. Drawings help you illustrate or show your thoughts. We know those are pictures. Future. Will we have this spaceship in the future? So thinking ahead, what will life be like later? Past. These horsemen lived in the past or long ago. All right, here's another one. Historic. Oh, I think that's the same as when we put a Y at the end here, before the IC, it would say history. So historic means something of the past. This log cabin is a historic building. Timeline. Here we can see August 31st, September 20th, October 30th. So there's about a month in between. A timeline shows when things happened. It's a line of time. Introduction. A timeline shows events or special things that happen. A timeline also shows when these things happen. All right, remember when we have a darkened word, that means it's one of our vocabulary words. It's important. In this book, you will learn how to make and use timelines. Oh, you guys can make a timeline. That'd be so fun. All right, so here's an example. 8 a.m., school begins. And then there's another hour. That should be 9, I think. And then look, 10. This is going by hours. Then they have recess at 10 o'clock. That's kind of like us. 11 o'clock, they have computer time, the next hour. So see how they're kind of spaced apart? And then 12 o'clock is lunch. 1 o'clock is story time. That's one of my favorites too. 3 o'clock, school ends. Well, that's a lot like our timeline. Let's look at the captions down here. It says, what time is recess? What time is recess? Is story time before or after lunch? All right, our other caption, this timeline shows what time things happen during a school day. All right, let's go to the next one. All right, underneath here is going to be our question, our text evidence question, and you have that in your packet. And this right here was a mistake. It just didn't get corrected. So we're going to pretend like that's not there, but we do see the question mark at the end. All right, so get ready. This question says, what signal word tells you what Bella and Jay do to start their timeline? Oh, that's one of those sequencing words. A timeline of a week at school. Bella and Jay make a timeline of a week at school. First, they write each day of the week. Next, I think these might be some signaling words. They write an event that happens on each day. Then, Bella and Jay use their list to make the timeline. Last, they draw pictures to illustrate their timeline. The pictures help show what the words mean. All right, so this question again, think about it. What signal word tells you what Bella and Jay do to start their timeline? So take a second, maybe tell your mom, tell your dad, tell your brother, and then you can write it. Oh, Monday, gym class. Tuesday, field trip. Wednesday, computer lab. Thursday, spelling test. Friday, firefighter. The author uses the word first to tell the order or sequence in which events happen. What other words does the author use to tell the sequence of events? Make sure you tell someone. All right, chapter 2. A timeline of the school year. Riley and Emma want to make a timeline of their school year. Some of the events have already happened. These events happened in the past. Some of the events have not yet happened. Oh, not yet happened. These events will happen in the future. September 6th, they're going according to months. School starts. Thanksgiving, November 20th. They have a little feast in their classroom. December 15th, winter break starts. They start on vacation. February 14th is Valentine's Day. March 6th, they went on a field trip to the zoo. April 29th, Games Day. And May 29th, school ends. So you could make a timeline of what we've done this year. This timeline shows months and dates. That's important. Months and dates. The picture over on the other side on the left, Miss Johnson helps Riley and Emma with their timeline. Oh, Emma, you got help with your timeline. All right, we're going to keep reading. A timeline of the United States. This timeline shows events that happened in the past. You can see when each event happened in the United States. All right. Was the Revolutionary War before or after the Civil War? Was George Washington president before or after astronauts landed on the moon? All right, so remember anything on the left will be before and anything in front of that will be after. So Revolutionary War. Oh, I see. Here's Revolutionary War here, 1775 to 1783. And then where do I see, oh, Civil War. Look, I see that keyword. So the Revolutionary War was before the Civil War on our timeline. It was earlier. I'm going to let you figure out the next one. George Washington, was he president before or after astronauts landed on the moon? All right. How is the timeline in Chapter 3 the same and different from the timeline in Chapter 1? So you're going to have to go back and look at those. How are they the same and different? Remember, that's a compare and contrast. We've talked about that a lot. A timeline of famous buildings. The timeline below shows historic buildings from around the world. The timeline shows when people built things or built buildings. The timeline starts with the oldest building. The timeline ends with the newest building. Okay, so it begins here with the oldest building. It ends over here with the youngest or the newest building. Which building is the oldest? We go over here. Which building is the oldest and which building is the newest? This would be newest, right? So you figure out what those are. Text evidence question. How do timelines give details about events? How does each of these give a detail about an important event? Remember, a detail is an important piece of information. All right, here we go. Conclusion. Timelines are a helpful tool. Timelines show when events happened. They help us understand our history over time. So here we have, oh, this one's by hour. I can see that by just looking at the timeline. I don't even know what it's about yet, but I can see this one's by time. This one is by month, day and month. This one is by day. And this one is by year. So this one goes in a little sequence of years. So what are some ways that timelines can look? All right, so talk about those with your parents. And here it reminds us some timelines show hours. Some timelines show months and dates. Some timelines show days. And some timelines show years. All right, friends, make sure you take some time to listen to the story again, but also pause it when you need to. And if you could write really good complete sentences to all of these, it'd be wonderful. There's our first section of our packets. Good job, friends. Goodbye.